So tell me, technique doesn't matter. Now, how many people have read online, technique doesn't matter? Just squat shit. Just lift shit. Hands up. There were 164 PR set. Tell me it doesn't matter. It matters. Not only does it matter, poor technique usually is one of the greatest causes of injury. If your knees are coming in really hard on a squat, what do you think is going to happen to your knees? Exactly. If your elbows are flaring too far on a bench, what do you think is going to happen to your pec? All right, so when you have good technique, you're also creating a better environment to strain in, a safer environment to strain in. Technique matters. It matters a lot. So when we're speaking about technique, I want to bridge that off into weak points. I personally don't like the term weak points to define sticking points and stuff like that. I like the term that Louis used to use years ago, which is called a mini-max. That's where the lift stalls. When you use the word weak point or sticking point, most people generally think, oh, I missed the lift here. Like halfway on the bench is what I use to describe this as an example. And so the first answer that people will give is, oh, if you miss halfway on the bench, you need to start doing 2 board presses, floor presses. How many times have you heard things like this? This is how you address the weak point. First off, shouldn't you address the weak point with technique? All right, because that's the first thing, because most weak points mini-maxes are going to be corrected with better technique. Probably 70% of the time. 10% of the time it's mental, 20% of the time it's physical. Now, without getting into a lot of detail, because I don't want to go into a full seminar, and it will be in the article. An exercise is just one example of how to overcome a mini-max. Who's to say that you're missing that bench halfway up because that's just where you stall? Maybe you're missing halfway up because you lowered it too slow. All right, you lowered it too slow, so you were fatigued by the time you went to push back into it. What if you pushed into that half point faster than you normally do? And so you break through the sticky point because you weren't pressing fast enough. The type of contraction is also something to look at when you're talking about mini-maxes and sticking points. It's not just an exercise. It can be a muscle group, it can be a type of contraction, it can be the setup, it can be technique, it can be all these other things. It's just not an exercise. If it was just an exercise, we could say, okay, you missed halfway up, do the 2 board press and fix it. But what if you were missing because your speed? You weren't generating enough force from your chest to the 2 board. But now we're going to correct it by using the 2 board. So we're going to decrease the time under tension, and we're going to take away the ability for you to be able to produce more force. We just made your weak point weaker. You see what I'm saying? So have an open mind. But the takeaway for today, technique is going to always trump everything from that standpoint. So when you have that mini-max or you have that sticking point, the first thing to go through your mind is, what's my technique? Film it. Compare it to people of the same structure online. You know, send something to our Q&A. We've got guys, obviously, who know what they're doing. 164 PRs, and they were all out drinking until 5 o'clock in the morning. Imagine what they could have done if they were all sober.
Oh, that's tonight.
Yeah, okay. So what I want to do is to help reinforce to you guys, we have to learn how to be patient. You know, a fighter who's going to throw the hardest punch is not going to throw the punch with the most aggression. He's going to throw it with the most skill. And he's the one that's going to knock the one out of their ass. Once you learn patience and you learn technique, then you sprinkle in, like Steve said. As soon as that bar leaves the ground, then you get aggressive. That sets you up to where, yes, there may be people right now who are beating you. There are people who are stronger than you. There are people that may have all-time world records right now that Steve talked about that are doing things wrong. Who's to say you're not going to take their place? You know how you beat them? By doing all these things that we're talking about. All right, that's why we're talking about these guys here. These aren't just like top 20 lifters. We're talking all-time world record holders. We're going to bench 900 pounds in 3 different weight classes. You know, guys been pulling 800 pounds for 50 years, right? 60? 65? You know? And then the first world record here. That's why that happens. You know, you don't necessarily have to be the genetic freak. You have to, yes, you have to be strong, you have to work hard, you have to have a certain degree of genetics, but you don't have to be the best genetically gifted person on the platform, because I will guarantee you, and they will agree with me, the best genetically gifted person on the platform is fucking one of these things up. And that's why these guys have a world record and those guys don't.